I believe you're either an authority of one or an authority of none. No one will ever know you as well as you know yourself. No one else will ever know about all the moments in your life that got you to this point in time. Now, that begs the question, what is an authority of one? An authority of one is understanding yourself so well that you can become the author of your future by design and not by default. My name is Candace Fitzpatrick, and I'm the founder of CoreClarity. I came to this realization in 2003 when I first took the StrengthsFinder assessment, and I was challenged to figure out how to teach all of the more than 33 million sets of results. I created a proprietary framework that divides the assessment's 34 talents into four different categories. Then I noticed that people with the same mix of categories or quadrants showed distinct patterns, and I came up with a concept called the core drill, which is determined by where your top five talents fall in those core clarity quadrants. You may not know about your talents at this point, and you may not know some of the terms we're going to use today, but you can click on the links in the description of this program to get up to speed. Joining me today are Neeki Bey and Michele Metzler, two of our CoreClarity facilitators.
That's right, Candace. We're bringing you people who've had massive success designing their futures intentionally. And our focus today is going to be actually on two core drills, the core drill called Passionato, and the second one is the Lifeline core drill. So, Passionato core drill is where a person has talents in three quadrants: the green reflect quadrant, the blue connect quadrant, and the magenta mobilize quadrant. The Lifeline core drill is where a person has talents in the green reflect, blue connect, and orange energize quadrants. One of the things that I love about the Core Clarity core drills is the unique insights that help each one of us describe who we are at our core. The core drills are the circles that you see on our backgrounds. You can see I'm a trailblazer, and Candace, the founder, is a thought rocket. Now I'm going to kick it over to my colleague, Michele, who is a super driver.
Thank you, Neeki. Thanks, Candace. We are so lucky we have two guests today. Throughout her 39-year career as an educator, she has served at every level of public education, including as a teacher, a counselor, campus administrator, and central office administrator. She says her life mission is to magnify purpose in herself and others, so hope and inner peace abound. He is an educator, a motivator, and a mentor who has led countless individuals to excel past their expectations and dreams. He played an important part in the lives of those football players who the film Friday Night Lights was all about. As an assistant coach, he instilled a love of honor and sportsmanship in the lives of the young men he coached. Today, they operate Made Up Minds, a consulting business specializing in the training and coaching of school boards, administrative teams, school faculty, corporate teams, athletic coaches, and couples in relationships. Welcome to Authority of One, Callie Williams Hearne and Dr. Nathaniel, Coach Hearne. We are so happy to have you here. Both of you have had remarkable careers. So when did you first discover your talents and learn about core clarity? And how did understanding your talents impact you professionally? Callie?
Well, it's so good to see all of you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I learned about my talents, and I believe it was back in 2005. Um, the position that I had at the time in the school district where I worked was just really entrenched in Gallup. So my position at that time was a coordinator of human resources. And we all had to take the CliftonStrengths, which is CliftonStrengths now. And we needed to know what our talents were according to Gallup. And Gallup would come in yearly and train us on our talents. One of my responsibilities at the time was to hire teachers for the district, and Gallup had what they called at the time a teacher perceiver. And then when I hired principals, Gallup had a principal perceiver. So I was strongly entrenched in
Mhm.
the CliftonStrengths starting back in 2007. And then from there, when I moved into the position as Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources in 2000, and I believe it was 2015, um, I used it constantly with my team. It was just magnificent. But the game changer came when, and this was after I retired, and my husband came home and told me about CoreClarity, and I'm sure he'll talk to you about how he was exposed to that. And then I met with Candace, and she took me through the process of coaching me through CoreClarity. That was a game changer.
I definitely want to touch on that game changer piece, but I'd love to hear about Nate's journey with learning his talents.
I'm not as fortunate as my wife with knowing her talents and going through the strength finder. I had no clue. But what I did, I'm a coach, and I think I coached football for 1,000 years in Texas. So you have to know who you are, right? When you're trying to direct young men to play the game.
Mhm.
So I was told, hey, you know how to motivate these kids. You know how to build relationships with them. So people would tell me that over and over and over again. And kids would come to me and they say, hey, coach, you listen. And so those were the things I just kind of built my career on. It wasn't until I was at a NSA meeting, National Speakers Association meeting, where I met Candace. And she invited me to a CoreClarity meeting. And the light bulb came on. I had never heard my talents specified with such specificity in an environment ever before. And it just resonated with me so much that I couldn't wait to go home and tell my wife. And that was the beginning of it for me. And ever since then, I know who I am. I know what I have to do. I know how to do it. And we use it every single day.
So to me, it sounds like, Nate, that knowing your talents, or at least having those identified, confirmed maybe what you already knew. For Callie, you said it was a game changer. So why was that a game changer for you?
Well, it was a game changer for me because for many years we had used the CliftonStrengths and had a very successful team built on their strengths and my strengths. But then when I saw Core Clarity and I saw the Core Clarity framework, it was so relational to me. The talents, I could see what Candace saw as far as how talents relate to each other.
It's interesting because Nate has achiever
Right.
and in his top five. So I'm kind of curious, how have y'all learned to navigate what's the intersectionality of those talents in your relationship with Nate having achiever in particular, since we were just talking about that?
Achiever and responsibility, right? So
Ah,
he's
good
got
point.
them
Yeah, you
both.
have both of
Yeah.
that. That's right. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah. But it because of her taking, and she went through core clarity before I did, but I had gotten my basics. I hadn't really gotten the specifics but I knew the basics. And as we both came together and we went through and we started training, that her, it was explained more of why she let things ride. Like it's just, that's just, she's not passionate about it. And
That's
I'm
a cool way to
passionate.
say it. Let things ride. I like that. I'm gonna use that.
And so I've never been a person who's done that, right? And I coached, and everything has to be done. I mean, it's like sometimes you got to make a decision in nanoseconds, right?
Mhm.
You got to get it done. You're 4th and 1. You got to score it. Who's going to get the ball to? What play you got to get it. So that was not mine. But I had to learn to understand that when she's passionate, she'll go get it. She'll do it.
Mhm.
But she has to be passionate about it. So that was a huge help in our relationship. And
Mhm.
then our maximizer was another thing. It kind of related to how she did things. I mean, from going shopping, I had to step back from going shopping because I'm going to go in there and get it done. I know what I want. I'm going to go to the aisle to get it, and I'm getting out. Well, we would go to the apples, and she would go, well, she look at 10 apples. Look the same to me, right? Just pick it. Just get it.
I
So
feel you,
it,
Nate.
so it's been awesome for us to learn and improve our relationship.
Yeah.
It has been awesome.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
I
And
can relate.
true.
Yes, I can relate because my husband's an achiever also. And he's like, that wasn't on the list. I'm like, so I went down every aisle. You didn't have to go down every aisle. So I don't go with the list just to get the list. Do you, Callie?
I don't, and as my husband said, once we went through core clarity, I didn't have that clarity before about
Mhm.
relationships. But once we went through that, I was able to understand that his achiever just really butted heads uh, with my maximizer and then with my passionata. Um, it was very frustrating. But then we had a common language where we understood, oh, so that's why you want things done yesterday.
Mhm.
Okay. But I have to have time to figure it out. I have to go through this process. So for him, he gets this idea and he's ready to move forward. And I'm thinking, okay, but wait, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. So we've learned how to work through that and how to appreciate the differences and know that we both bring value to the table with our talents.
Which I'm curious. Like, maybe this will go to Nate. So obviously, 4th and 1, as you were saying, you got to achieve. You got to make that decision. I'm curious about some of your other talents, like connectedness, which we share. And for me, there's a lot of time. I lean into reflection a lot, and so there's a lot of quiet time. There's a lot of journaling. There's a lot of just observing the world. How do you engage with the connectedness talent? How are you seeing all the things in the world and connecting the dots?
That's excellent. Because core clarity clarified that in me more than anything else I've ever known in my life. I always told Callie, I said, why me? Why am I in this situation? Right?
Mm.
Why did they ask me to do this? Right? So I'm thinking I'm here because um, I don't think anything is by accident, right? I think it's designed by God. And I came to the realization as I read those things that this is all everything is connected, right? I'm here because God put me here for this exact thing. It is not an accident. I'm here with this young man because God put me here. I had a young man, he had to coach him. He turned into one of the most awesome players that I ever had. But he had a background that you would just shake your head. How is this kid still standing? But he
Mm.
goes on to be an all-state football player and play in the NFL and be the first in his family to graduate from Baylor University and then become a county commissioner and all of these things. But he had all of this baggage, and he asked me, he said, Coach, and I got in trouble. He said, people would coaches would look at me like, this kid, he's just he's just a bad seed. He's a thug. And he said, when I got in trouble in your room and you took me out and you were looking at me, you looked at me like I was a little boy, like you really wanted to help me. And he said, I couldn't imagine how people, how bad as I was, why would people want to help me? And I said, I didn't see the bad.
Mhm.
I saw the potential,
Yeah.
right? So that's God. That kid was there in my room in that time because God said, "Hey,
That's a
Beautiful.
powerful story, and to me, it highlights on a level the this combination that you have of empathy and connectedness. And both of you, I'm just noticing this now, so excuse me, but both of you have empathy and connectedness. So that makes me really curious to hear like how that shows up differently, Callie. Like in you, would you say how you're using that empathy and connectedness versus how you might be using that, Nate?
I didn't know that I had empathy when I was growing up. I didn't know what to call it.
Mm.
Um, but I always could just feel what other people were feeling. I just always was so interested in helping others and just listening. I would listen to their story. My friends would come and they want to have a conversation with me. And this is just growing up from a child. Uh, I later learned and I do have a degree in counseling. So when I was going through that process, the professor was teaching us empathy. And so they would look at me and they would say, so you've learned this already? I said, no, this is just natural. I said, those things that you're teaching, they just come natural to me. So that's when I sort of thought or learned that there's a difference between teaching a talent and actually having that talent
Mhm.
naturally. Um, I can feel what my husband is feeling. My first thought always goes to him. And okay, so what is he feeling? I want to know what he's feeling. And that's how my empathy works. Connectedness, I strongly believe that we're here for a reason. I strongly believe that that is that spiritual component that Candace talks about and Gary talks about in that training. I'll try to be real quick with this example. And when I talk about talents and strengths, you guys will see how I get long-winded. So sorry about that. My husband, many, many times, he understands my maximizer, so he knows when to cut me off. And he's very good at doing that. So anyway, I give you permission to cut me off if you need to. But I think it's important to see how deep that connectedness runs within my soul as well. So when I was a high school counselor, and this was back in Odessa, um, I had a student to come to me, and she was a senior in high school, and she had just recently gotten married and had moved into the city. So Permian High School, Mojo, is one of those schools that can be very cliquish if you haven't grown up in that area. So she felt like an outsider. But we made a connection. And we talked about her being a married student and some of the things that she was going through. Um, but and so I just kind of took her under my wings and I talked to her about college and how she could get scholarships and things like that. So I didn't see it as being anything out of the ordinary or unusual. So let's fast forward uh, 20, 25 years later. She's now the principal at a school in Odessa, Texas. We're here, and it may be even more years than that. I've kind of gotten my dates all kind of off track here. But anyway, she gives me a call and she knows that and she knows my husband as well and that he's doing inspirational speaking. So she calls and she said, Callie, I want you and coach to come out and do a training with my staff. And we had gone through CoreClarity at the time. So we did go to the school where oh no, she was assistant principal at that time. And it was a junior high school. And so the connectedness here is that At the time, one of my points in life when I was in Odessa, there was a high school there called Ector High School, which which was composed of Blacks and Hispanic students, and that's where I was a counselor. Now, years later, it is a junior high campus, and it accommodates all students if you are in that boundary. This is where she's an assistant principal. So anyway, it's good to get back to the campus, and she's showing me, she said, this is a campus where you were at one point. Now that's not where I met her. I met her at Permian, the campus across town. But anyway, and then this is part of the connectedness part. So she said, Callie, I want you to see my office. So we go into her office, and this is after we've had lunch. Um, it is the same office that I had as a counselor when I was a counselor at Ector High
Mhm.
School. And she said, look, and I don't know how she knew it was my office. She said, this was your office. And I said, this is really how connectedness works, Amy. I said, we've come full circle. And she said, Callie, I will never forget how you took me under your wings when I was a married student and I felt so out of place. Uh, and she said, because of that, I got scholarships and I became, the person that God intended. And she's very spiritual too. So that's how mine connectedness. I'm sorry, I get a little tongued with that, but hopefully that explains it. Did that answer your question, Nika?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that you're able to one of the threads that I'm seeing is the thread of students and education. I think that's really fascinating how that's shown up for you all. But if you wanted to jump in, Nate, and share some more about that on your end, empathy and
Yeah,
connectedness.
yeah, thank you for that, Nika. What we do in that empathy thing is we do feel we have that energy that we can go into situations and see pain, and we come out and we look at each other. And she said, "Did you see that? Did you see what she was doing? Did you?" I said, "Yeah, I felt it," and she's in pain. So we did marriage counseling together, marriage workshops, marriage seminars. I mean, and uh, I I I volunteered in the largest maximum security prison in the state of Texas. I spent 11, 14 years volunteering and working in the prison system. So I go in and they want me to uh, get this prison up to production. Most people don't know the prison system in the United States is $1 billion business, and 8 to 12% is privately owned. And we don't know half the things that they make furniture, they make automobile parts, they make clothes, shoes, food, and they send this all across the nation. And so they call me in to say, hey, you got the skills to do this. So help us. I go in and I go into visitation and walk around visiting with people, and I see that a lot of the women that are coming in, they have two kinds of visitation. One that you guys see on the TV behind the mirror with the phone, those are closed. But then they have the open where they can come in and sit down and talk to them. So that's where I would walk around, and I kept seeing all these red eyes in the wives. And so I thought, hey, I went home. I said, Callie, let's do a marriage workshop in the prison. Callie's never been in a prison before in her life. Never passed by a prison in her life. But she's a trooper, right? Why? Because she has empathy, right? And so we go in and we do the marriage workshop together, and then we separate them. The wives go with Callie, and I take them in. And I've been working with the men, so I kind of know what they're doing. I know their thing is guilt and shame. Our kids are struggling, and they know that 80% of their children that have fathers that are in prison are going to somehow get connected with the prison system. 80%. So we talk about that. But on the other side with Callie, I don't know much about it. I see the pain. I saw the pain in the wife, but I don't know the whole story. It's a catharsis. It's like this. They're in there. They're married to the guys in prison. They've been coming seeing them for years. It's normally like this. They're working 2 jobs. They have 2 or 3 elementary age students. They're living in apartments, and they're driving an old used car. And so they're doing everything they possibly can to make this work. Plus, they're coming to seeing their husbands every single Sunday. Mm-hmm. And the husband's coming in and saying, "Oh, I know you're cheating on me. Or God told me that you have been unfaithful to me." And that's why I'm seeing in Callie's just, she's just, I mean, she's a trooper. I mean, she goes in there and she's working with him, and those women are coming out of there and they're hugging her and they're thanking her so much, and sending cards back into the prison to me. They can't get to her, but they're sending them into the prison to me. They go, "Oh, your wife was this, that's that." So that's the thing, Nika, that we have. We can see that pain. Mm-hmm. We understand that pain.
Wow.
And you have the tools to help them work through it and get to the other side, to something that is a much brighter future than they even imagine themselves to be able to have.
Yeah. Yes. One of the cautionary statements with empathy is setting those boundaries. Yes. So how do you set those boundaries then individually, but then also as a couple?
Yeah.
Well, initially I didn't set the boundaries, and I would worry. I would worry about what others were going through because I wanted to fix it. I wanted to fix it. Um, but as I matured in learning my strengths, when I learned about that cautionary statement, I understood boundaries were very important. In order for me to survive, I had to set those boundaries. I'm not saying it was easy, but I had to learn. That's something I had to learn how to do, is to let it go. I was there to facilitate. I'm there to facilitate their understanding of what they are going through. Um, I have the tools where I can speak to their hearts, but it's what's inside of them that has to come out and to help them to grow. And they are the only ones with the grace of God who can help them to walk through it. Um, there were a couple of the women, somehow they got my contact information, and they would text me, once they got home. Um, but, we didn't form a relationship outside of that setting, and they were very cognizant of my boundaries too. Mm-hmm. So, to answer your question, Michele, it's imperative for someone with empathy to be strong in setting those boundaries. There's got to be a stopping point. Otherwise, then we're destroyed too, and we're not of any help to anyone.
Nate, I'm curious if that's the same for you, especially giving, as a coach, I'm sure that those boundaries might have been a little blurred.
Yeah, and I didn't know that until I went through CoreClarity, and this, Michele and Neeki, it goes back to, it goes into that core, right? Because one of the things in the core says that I feel like you're being used, right? Because you got the achiever, you got the connectedness, you got the, and sometimes when that all comes out and it starts spinning, right? You're all working in it, and sometimes it just gets to the point where why am I always the one that's here first? Why am I always the one here last? Why am I always the one putting this stuff together? Why is everybody wants to, hey, coach, right? And so you start feeling that. You start feeling overwhelmed and feeling used. Like, I know they know what to do, right? So the cautionary statement and listening to Candace and Gary and the things they said over the years and experiencing it over the years and understanding it now, because I didn't understand it. I felt guilty about that feeling, right? That sometimes I go, hey, why don't you do it? Why always me, right? So, but now I know I have to set it. I have to tell people up front, right? I can do this for you, but I'm not doing that. And especially in the prison, right? I had a nephew come in, and he's a journalist. He is, and he one of the guys in there, he has a story, and he wanted it written. It's a heck of a story. And I brought my nephew in the interview, and I was working with 32 gang members. These are ex-gang members from almost every gang. Hells Angels, Aryan Brotherhood, Blood Crips, Mexican Mafia. But we had a ministry that all given their life over to Christ. And so we had this wonderful ministry. And the guy with the Hells Angels, he wanted me to do his story. And then when we left, my nephew looked at me and he said, Uncle Nate, they want you to do everything. So it resonated with me, it hit me. And I said, how does he see that? Why does he see that? And he said, they want you to do this, they got you to do this, and this. And so it helped, because at that time, I was also working strongly in CoreClarity. And it hit me, saying, I've got to shed some of this off, right? I've got to slow down a little bit in order to keep myself balanced.
What's your favorite book, Callie?
Okay, my favorite book is The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I don't know if you've
Mm.
read that one or not. I had to narrow it down. I love her becoming, which represents one stage in her life. But the light we carry, I identify more with that because there is a challenge that she presents in that book to all of us. Because regardless of who you are, you're going to carry a light. It may be really dim or it may be really bright, but you have to be aware that you are carrying a light. And everything that's happened to us in our lives, uh, it's created that light inside of us. So that's my favorite book, The Light We Carry.
Nate, what about you? What's your favorite book?
I've been reading David Brooks' book on how to know people, how to know a person. And those things always resonate with me because I'm so relational. Coaching is so relational, and it changes lives. You can change a person's life in those kind of situations in a nanosecond, just how you act in it. One of the things that I've always felt that can destroy a life, like in those moments, like Nika, when I said about being on the 1 yard line, 1 second on the clock, you got to get the play in, and you get it in, you hit that kid with the ball, and he drops.
So I'm a musician by, by background and passion and love. I've done it all my life. And I'm curious to know, let's start with you, Coach. What's a song that you love?
The song that has resonated with me forever is by McFadden and Whitehead, We Are Family.
Oh,
Okay.
love it.
Callie, how about you? What's a song that you love?
Okay, so the song that I love, and I think you guys may know this one, is We Are One by Frankie Beverly.
That's
All
right.
right, so I have a question for you. I think I may know Nate's answer, but Nate, we'll start with you. What is a sport that you love?
As a coach, you like the aura of competition. You like to see people who are in those moments rise to the top, and they just perform like, God, look at her, look at him. Where did that come from? And so what I've been looking at, and I don't know why, but I just getting excited about girls softball, right? On the college level. It's just fascinating to me. And the thing that some people hate, I love. I love people who win over and over and over and over again.
Kelly, how about you?
My favorite sport is tennis. Um, I wasn't exposed to it until I was in college, And so I took a PE class. Actually, I took a tennis class. And wow, I loved it. I loved it. And it stayed with me throughout my life, my adult life. And even I would do intramural tennis tournaments. And I think I still have a couple at the YMCA. And this is after I had children and everything. And so I won a couple of those. So now I'm not able to do it, but that I loved. I love tennis.
Yeah, it's a great game. Nate and Callie, what is the final message that you would like to leave with our audience?
But one thing that I did want to read to you, she said, my daughter, who was 15 at the time, and this is our granddaughter, loved the experience. Yes, even at her age. She said, it was great to understand why she is the way that she is and seeing other family members with the same strength. Also, I feel like we connected more once we learned all of our strengths. As a mom, it was great to see how well she knew herself while also understanding to love her strengths as she can't change that. Something important for all kids to know.
I believe from everything that we've been using in the last 7 years and doing the things across this nation with CoreClarity is that uh, it's we have to know who we are. We have to be able to identify our talents and turn those talents into strengths and use those talents where we can best achieve success.
So thank you both so much for taking time out of your day to share your stories individually, your story as a couple. It has really been so incredibly inspiring, such a beautiful view into your world. And so I know we've only scratched the surface of your story. So should people want to learn more about you and what you offer, where should they go?
They can actually go to our website and it's very easy. It's drnatehearne.com. And we have everything there on the website that they need to know about us.
Great, thank you.
Please hit the like button and comment below what resonated with you from our guest story today. To help unlock the mystery of your history, click the link below.
And that is Authority of One, shattering the myths that other people tell us about ourselves so that we can clearly see ourselves for who we truly are.